The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings 2022 WM Phoenix Open Final Betting Card, DraftKings ownership, props, and one and done talk through for the week. Remember to smash the like button to the episode. Give me your one and done down in the description. Subscribe to Mayo Media Network. Subscribe to the newsletter as well. That's free down in the description. It'll have all of the cheat sheets, all of the betting card, all of the props, hot links to deals and promos, plus an in-depth Super Bowl breakdown in terms of the prop betting market in case you are interested in that. I'll have Super Bowl rest of the week. We got DraftKings Showdown. We have the best bets. The spread show has already been released, so go check that out, along with all of the other golf shows going on this week as well. Rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify while you're here anyway as well. So all of that Listeners League link is available. However, it is full this week. All 3,000 spots are gone. It has already been confirmed that it is bigger for next week at the Riv. So 3,500 spots. We fill that quickly. We get up to 4,000 spots, and we're well on our way into a lot of rake-free money going forward. Betting card for the week for TPC Scottsdale. I went with Hideki. I came down to Hideki versus Xander. So Hideki at 18, Xander at 22. Only had room for one of those guys on my card this week, and I decided to go with Hideki. Mainly because I wrote him up in my Golf Digest breakdown, and I don't want to be the kind of guy that gives out tips that doesn't actually play. If I'm going to give out losing plays, part of the penance is that I have to lose along with everyone that I'm giving the advice to. I don't want to be the guy that gives out bets and doesn't play the plays. That's ridiculous. So Hideki, 18-1 was the last add to the card over Xander, which almost means for sure that Xander is going to win this week. But hey, that's where we're. I know a lot of you have Xander tickets, so congratulations to all of you in advance for this. Brooks Koepka, 35-1. I'm just rolling with it. In my entire lifetime, I could bet on Brooks every year at this event and never be down money. So Brooks has been very good to me in Phoenix. So let's go back to him again. 35-1. Then Bubba Watson, 50-1 with the top 5 each way. The best number on the market right now is 45. I'd still play the 45. Probably wouldn't play the each way on the 45. 50 is usually my limit on the top 5 each way. Abraham Answer. Dom talked me into this on the DraftKings Picks show this week, and the more I really looked into it, and there will be a bigger breakdown of this in the article, in the newsletter article on Wednesday evening, of why Answer is a good selection here. 66-1 I found with the top 5 each way. I really like that bet. I can't wait for him to miss the cut now, but all signs point to Answer in his first his first event of the year at the Century was horrible, but then afterwards, Sony and Amex gained off the tee, gained on approach. The guy just couldn't make a putt to save his life, but then all of a sudden he goes over to Saudi last week, turns out a top 10. So these are really deep odds for someone for the class of Abraham Answer, someone who has performed very well at TPC courses over the year too. TPC Southwind, obviously he picks up the win a year ago, so that's always good news when we're looking at these sorts of things. And that was against a very stacked field, so I don't think there's any field too big for Answer. I do like it with the top 5 to go along with it. 3 bombs of the week from Beyond, 100-1. Aaron Wise, 110-1. Nito Pereira, everyone's on this one, 140-1. And then my guy, the Gim Reaper, 225-1, all with the top 5 each way. Top 10, I dipped into the top 10 market this week. I like Francesco Molinari, plus 750 for the top 10. 2 top 20s I got on the go. This time around, Gim, plus 550, and the Postmaster General, JT Postman. JT Poston, plus 650 on the top 20 is where I'm going. But we got some first-round leaders back in the mix this week as well. Bubba, 45-1. The rest of them will be played with the top 5 each way, but where he is 45-1 in the first-round leader market, I'm only going with the outright wager on him to be first-round leader. Outside of that, Gim, Lashley, and Michael Neesmith, 100-1 with the top 5 each way. JT Poston, 110 with the top 5 each way. And now this is how you know my analysis is very solid, is because I only played this guy so I could say his name on the show. But Monday qualifier and Canadian from Quebec, Etienne Papineau, 250-1 with the top 5 each way. You know, okay, let's cash the money right now with my man, Etienne Papineau. Okay. It's going to be very fun when he shoots 11 over. However, Etienne Papineau would be a fantastic hit at 250 to 1. Hey, listen, he qualified for this tournament. Obviously, he's in good news right now, so hopefully he can keep the good vibes rolling in his first ever PGA Tour event. Wouldn't expect too much, though. One and dones in our 3-man for the week, and thank you to everyone who offered to track this. We found someone to track it, so now I don't have to. And somehow I'm winning this, despite being the absolute shits at one and done for this competition. I'm going with Justin Thomas. Jeff stole Hideki from me, and Cust has put the Anda curse on Samuel Burns this week. So watch out for old Sammy Burns. Prop market for the week, and I got 2 offers for you, which is pretty huge. PrizePicks.com obviously is where I'm playing these ones at right now. But I have 2 special promo codes, and you can depend on which one that you want. One, if you use code MMN at your first deposit at PrizePicks.com, you'll get a deposit match of up to $100. So you deposit 100, you get 200. Easy stuff. Or you can use, because the Super Bowl is this week, promo code MMNNFL at prizepicks.com. Now, this one does not have a deposit match. However, it's much better if you don't want to deposit too much money. You want to deposit like $10, $20, whatever it might be. Go do that. You can play the golf props, but here's the catch. If you use code MMNNFL at prizepicks.com right now, and you play an entry that has Joe Burrow in it, for the Super Bowl, and it's $5 or more, so you can just put $5 on it, and Joe Burrow throws for more than 1 passing yard, they'll just give you $100. So you can deposit 10 and just get 100 as long as Joe Burrow play is in the game. That's probably the way that you want to play this one. So it's like a free $100. You don't even have to do a deposit match. Deposit $10, play the $5 entry with Joe Burrow in it, and get $100 if he throws for over 1 yard. So code MMNNFL, that is legitimate free money, which you should do. Here's what I'm doing for the first round at the Waste Management. I am going, and they got rid of the have to take 1 over to have to take 1 under. This is great news. You can go all overs, all unders for golf now at prizepicks.com. That is amazing, but I'm still going with 1 over and 1 under here. Opening round score, Brandt Snedeker over 69. So as long as he shoots 1 under or worse, we win with Brandt Snedeker. And if he shoots 2 under, we push. That's a big ask from old Brandt, unless he really heats up with the putter, which, outside of, what was it, in Amex a few weeks back, I mean, he's been kind of crappy ever since. Abraham Answer, my guy this week, Dom's guy, sold me on him, so I'm sold under 69 in the opening round, so 3 under or better for Abraham Answer to win that one. 100 pays 300, 50 pays 150 with the power play at prizepicks.com, so go do that. If you want the deposit match, code MMN at first deposit. If you want the Joe Burrow special with basically the free $100, MMN NFL at first deposit at prizepicks.com. So go check that out. DraftKings picks for the week. Obviously, my cheat sheet is available on dknation.com right now. I played a bit of a different strategy this week. Just trying to test it out a little bit. I saw someone won the mini-max last week. I was like, yeah, maybe I'll build 100 lineups. So I did build 100 lineups to play in the mini-max. I put 50 of them into the $5 as well. So obviously, I'm going to have a really good lineup in the mini-max that isn't involved in the $5 and just win no money, because that's just how it goes. Also, there are $75 qualifiers for the gigantic 4,444 event that DraftKings is running for Riviera next week. There's a bunch of those available. They're 2 max entries. I would suggest playing both entries in one of them rather than one entry in 2 of them. And you can make different cases for each of them. I would just prefer to have 2 of the 75 entries rather than 1 of the 75 entries. I played 2 not completely separate lineups, but separate enough that's how we're going to end up playing this. Just, if you play in one, you might end up against an outlier score that you could have won a different one that you would lose in that one. There's always that risk. I just think having the 2 entries in one gives you a better spot, especially if you're playing significantly different lineups in those contests. It gives you 2 separate paths to victory, and there's only one winner. So that's the way that I would do it. I want to qualify for this, and I don't want to spend $4,000 to $4,444 to play in this tournament. So here we are. There's decent leverage plays at the top of the board this week. So when we talk about DraftKings ownership for the week, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. All the names that you've heard ballied about all week: John Rahm, Scotty Scheffler, Justin Thomas, Russell Henley, Hideki, Luke List, Xander. Those would be my guys for the very top of the board. If we're going down the board a bit, Luke List, Aaron Wise, Mito Pereira, I would all expect to have not like overwhelming ownership, but probably into the double digits, somewhere between like 8 and 13% for those 3 guys. Then we also have Keith Mitchell is getting more buzz. That's more of a fantasy national thing, though. I would expect him to be in like the 7 to 9 range. But at the top of the board, Cantlay is the one over $10,000 that it's not to say that no one is going to, but he'll be like 9 to 12% owned, where everyone else is going to be in the mid-teens to over 20% above $10,000. But in the 9s through the 8s, like you have extreme ownership breaks on a bunch of guys. Like very few people are going to use Spieth, very few people are going to use Brooks. Those two pretty straightforward. Berger, I still can't wrap my mind around in terms of ownership because common sense says you fade him because of the back problems. But if you run an optimizer, Daniel Berger is going to be spit out because of that cheap price, not considering his back injury. So if people just run optimizers, you're going to see that Daniel Berger's ownership is going to be a little bit higher in that regard. And because Scotty Scheffler is sucking up so much oxygen in that low $9,000 area, it's giving us a pretty good value on, like, no one's using Fitz. I'll use Fitz. Louis, he's going to be relatively high owned. The one I'm really shocked about is Tony Finau. Because when was the last time that Tony Finau was, sub $9,000 and not the overwhelming chalk? Because that's not going to be the case this week. You might get like a 7%, maybe less, Tony Finau. Everyone's kind of off the Finau train. I did not play him because I played Fitz and I played Louis and Bubba from this range. But I think you can make a pretty compelling case if you think this is a rebound week for Tony Finau. If you're someone who plays Finau every week anyway, why would you divert right now when no one is using him? I tend to fade Tony Finau more than using him, so I'm not really in that realm. But if you're someone who constantly goes to him, I don't see why you would pivot at this point when he's a legitimate pivot play for the first time in 3 years. So Tony Finau at the top of the list is looking pretty good. And the upper 7s, Answer's building a little bit of steam. Very few people are using Horschel, so I decided to use those two guys in my lineups as well, along with Joel Damon, who has a terrible track record at this course, but just no one wants to use him. I thought that was really bizarre considering he's coming off a pretty good week, and he knows this course really well, so hopefully he can keep the good mojo going outside of the back 9 on Sunday at Pebble Beach. Show up with the game you had the rest of the week, Joel, and all of a sudden you and your bucket hat are in top-notch shape for Phoenix this week. One and dones for the week, and I think this is where the ownership on Fantasy National can really help you out. So fantasynational.com/Mayo is where you want to go. And I think it's more pertinent to one and done mainly than it is for DraftKings lineups, because a lot of the people that are playing in the giant one and done are members at fantasynational.com. They're both run by the same site, so that would make a lot of logical sense. People who subscribe and are members at Fantasy National would play in the giant one and done. So I think that the ownership is more relevant to that than anything else. Although the DraftKings one's pretty spot on as well. There's a few outliers here and there, but for one and done, I think that it can work, that you're going to see Rahm, Hideki, Xander as your big 3. A lot of people will use Scheffler as well. So there's the big 4. They're probably the highest 4 in terms of ownership. If you wanted to pivot this week and use one of the top end guys, Bubba will probably draw more interest, although if he plays well this week, tons of people will use him next week at the Riv. Cantlay, if you haven't used him already, it's not a great spot for him, obviously, but no one's going to use him. And he's still third in the odds or whatever he might be. So he is sort of the top end name that no one's going to. Very few people will use Brooks. Very few people will use Spieth. Very few people will use Louis in his first start. No one is going to use Tony Finau. So you have an option of the top 10, top 15 guys on the betting board that are going to garner 2% ownership in the one and done. And listen, if we were good at picking winners and knew who was going to win, we wouldn't lose so much. So sometimes you have to put yourself into the blind faith of not only will I take, the odds are telling me this guy has a pretty good chance of winning. No one wants to use him. If I hit him and he wins, I'm going to vault to the top of this competition, especially this early in the year. So I think that's how you should be trying to manage your one and dones. I had a lot of success with Spieth last week. Not so much Justin Rose. Shouldn't have used Justin Rose. Chalky Justin Rose was not a good selection in the one and done. Now in a 3-man, that's different. Against 4,000 people, you want to be trying to look for the outliers there. With all things being equal, take the lower owned guy. That is the best way to get to the top, and hopefully variance is on your side for this week. Thank you all for watching. Sub to the newsletter for more info on the Waste Management Open. This event starts at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Thursday, so you still have a little bit of time to wake up and fool around with your lineups or consume any of the golf content that has already come out. My article and cheat sheet are up on dknation.com. The research newsletter and show are already out, obviously, as are the Jeff show for the bets and the DraftKings show with Dom. And then in the newsletter, there'll be more analysis on the Waste Management Open, making a big statistical case for Abraham Answer and why he is a good bet at 66-1 this week. So that's the way that I'm playing it. Thank you all for tuning in. Smash the like on the way out. Rate and review and sub to the Pat Mayo Experience on Apple and Spotify to help us out in that regard. And check out the Spread Pick show this week. It's a funny one, all right? Good luck this week. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!